Hey, witches and wild souls, welcome back to Mr. and Mrs. Magic Under the Moon. It's time to dive into one of the most powerful and mysterious nights on the witches' calendar, Walpurgisnacht. It's a night of bonfires, flying witches, spirit flights, and ancient rites that mark the gateway from winter to summer. Think of it as Beltane's dark, fiery twin the night before. So, what is Walpurgisnacht? This night is also known as Walpurgisnight. Generally, it takes place from the evening of April 30th to May 1st. It's also sometimes referred to as Hexennacht, which, by the way, is German for Witches' Night. Some use the names interchangeably, and some recognize a difference between the two, which I'll get into in a bit. Walpurgisnacht itself is observed from April 30th to May 1st, and it's named after Saint Walpurga, who's a Christian saint and whose feast day falls on May 1st. Saint Walpurga was an English missionary and abbess in Germany and was canonized on May 1st around 870 CE. Her feast day became associated with protecting oneself against witchcraft and evil. Since in European witch lore, especially Germanic, April 30th, the night before, was the night witches flew to Brocken Mountain, where they gathered to feast and dance with the devil. This was, of course, seen as sinful or satanic, so these original celebrations focused on lighting bonfires, playing music loudly, wearing costumes, essentially to scare off evil and scare off witches. Ironically, over time, the feast ended up blending with older pagan spring festivals such as Beltane, which also falls on May 1st. So you'll most commonly see this celebrated in Central Europe, such as parts of Germany, Austria, Switzerland, the Netherlands, and Scandinavia. Today, you'll see German celebrations with bonfires, dancing, and full-on witchy merriment. In Sweden and Finland, it's called Valborg, and there it's more about singing in the spring, lighting fires, and partying, especially with the university students. In the Czech Republic, it's called Čarodajnice, which means witch's night, and people burn witches' effigies to banish winter and cleanse the spirit. So it's total spring cleaning vibes with flames. Hexennacht, on the other hand, is the folkloric name for that night, April 30th, and it's celebrated solely on that night. It's tied to those legends of witches flying to the mountaintops to celebrate, cast spells, and commune with spirits. So, although the two names are often used interchangeably today, technically, Walpurgisnacht is the Christian version of the celebration, and it bears Saint Walpurga's name, while Hexennacht is the folkloric, witchy, pagan-flavored version, emphasizing the magic and mysterious side of the night. So this night is a liminal night, where old spirits rise, witches roam, and the world is half in shadow, half in bloom. The veil between the worlds is thin, just like Samhain, but instead of descending into the dark, we're rising into the light. It's the moment when witches ride the storm, dance between seasons, and claim their wild magic. Let's look at some ways you can tap into Walpurgisnacht or Hexennacht energy, even if you're not in Europe. In medieval Europe, flying ointments or salves were made that were said to help witches travel to sabbats enter trance-like states, or even fly through astral planes. The original Witch's Flying Ointment, yeah, that stuff was no joke. They were loaded with seriously dangerous herbs like belladonna, henbane, mandrake. Those herbs are rich in tropane alkaloids, which can cause hallucinations, but also seizures, heart failure, and, death. So instead, I would like to show you a flying ointment recipe that's a bit safer. Instead, we're going to use safe, skin-friendly herbs that are just as magical: mugwort, wormwood, damiana, little lavender, yarrow, for their ability to shift consciousness, open psychic senses. It won't make you levitate naked into the woods at midnight, but it will help you slip into the in-between and walk the hedge. So for the ingredients, you'll need 1 tablespoon dried damiana. We're using it for its calming, euphoric effects. 1 tablespoon dried mugwort. This helps with lucid dreaming and astral travel. 1 tablespoon dried lavender. The lavender creates a more gentle and calming experience. It promotes peace, relaxation, and it's fantastic for opening the mind to lucid dreaming. It also enhances emotional clarity, making it perfect for ritual work. 1 teaspoon dried wormwood. Now, wormwood was one of the traditionally used ingredients because it promotes deep vision work, lucid dreaming, and astral travel. However, like belladonna, it can be toxic, which is why we're going to use it sparingly, just 1 teaspoon. 1 teaspoon yarrow. Yarrow provides strong protection and psychic openings and potent spiritual sight, as well as bravery while journeying, and helps with connecting the physical and spirit worlds. So it's perfect for hedge crossing or astral travel. And then you're going to use 1/4 cup of carrier oil. I recommend using a light oil like grapeseed or jojoba oil. In this recipe, we're going to use grapeseed, and this is basically the base of your ointment. And then finally, you'll need 1 tablespoon of beeswax. And this we're going to use for the consistency of the ointment because it's really going to be pretty much like a salve as opposed to an oil. So we want it to solidify. And for the tools, you'll need a small pot for infusing, and you'll want to use a double boiler or at least a heat-safe bowl that you can put on top of a pot with boiling water. A fine strainer, or you can use cheesecloth. You'll want a small jar or tin to store the ointment in. So in the double boiler, you're going to combine the damiana, mugwort, lavender, wormwood, and yarrow, and then you're going to pour the carrier oil over the herbs until they're totally covered. Now you're going to let the mixture heat on low for 2 to 3 hours, but make sure you stay nearby and that you're stirring it occasionally. Now this is going to allow the herb's energies and properties to infuse into the oil. After 2 to 3 hours, strain the herbs from the oil into a clean bowl using your strainer or cheesecloth, and then pour the strained infused oil back into the double boiler and add the beeswax. And put it back on low heat and stir it now and again until the wax is fully melted into the oil and your mixture stays smooth. Once the wax is fully melted and combined, then you can remove the mixture from the heat and very carefully pour the ointment into a small jar or tin so you can store it. Give it a few hours to sit at room temperature so it can cool and solidify. Okay, now that you've made your own Witch's Flying Ointment, it's time to talk about how to use it. So, as you can see, it's now solidified. That's exactly how you want it to look. It's also recommended that you use a dark colored jar or the tin. So this is kind of an amber color, or you can use like a cobalt blue, or if you put it in a regular jar, then you may want to cover it. So basically, the ideal use for this ointment is when you're trying to mentally or spiritually travel or commune. In a bit, I'm going to go over a ritual called Invoke the Wild Witches. But you can also use it for things like having a deeper connection to your subconscious, lucid dreaming, astral travel, or communing with specific deities or beings that are closely tied to witchcraft, like Freya, the Norse goddess of love, war, and witchcraft, or Hecate, the goddess of liminal spaces and crossroads, and seen by some as Queen of the Witches, or even the witch's devil, the liberator in traditional witchcraft, also known as the witch father, the old one, the man in black, etc. So we're not talking about the satanic Christian devil. So before you apply it, you want to ground and center and then focus on what you actually want to accomplish for your ritual and make it clear in your mind before you start. Then you're going to put a light dab of your ointment on your temples, your wrists. It could be on the back of your neck. And so that's where your energy flows more freely. So as you apply the ointment, visualize your intention flowing into your body with every dab of the ointment. Once you apply the ointment, sit or lie down and feel the energy flowing through your body. And so as the ointment takes effect, you may or may not start to feel a little lightness or even just a sense of clarity. That's when you want to really tune in with your intention. So if you're working with the astral plane, visualize yourself floating or traveling. And if you're seeking insight into something, that's the time to really make sure that you are opening yourself up to the answers. Just don't try to force it. When you're ready to return, bring your awareness back to your current surroundings. Now, most importantly, when you're done, don't forget to wash your hands so you don't accidentally get it in your eyes or on food or anything like that. Any leftover ointment, you'll want to store your jar in a cool, dry place. Generally, it can last about 6 months to a year or even longer. Some tips to help it last longer is, again, using a darker colored glass jar, or you can add a little vitamin E oil when you're making it. Also, you can, instead of using your fingers, use an applicator so that way you are not mixing your natural oils into it. And then lastly, next time you do plan to use it, especially if it's been a while, you want to check it first because you want to make sure it hasn't gone rancid. So look for off smells, mold, or change in the texture or color. And if you think it's gone funky at all, then just toss it and make another batch. Okay, so now let's look at the Invoke the Wild Witches ritual. With this ritual, you're channeling the energy of the wild hunt, storm spirits, night riders. If you're not familiar with the wild hunt, it's part of Germanic and Norse folklore. It's led by, depending on the version you subscribe to, Odin, Berchtha, Frauholt, or in some cases, some versions, even Saint Walpurga herself. I'm personally not a big fan of that version, but if that's what you choose, that's fine. It's an energetic, ghostly procession of spirits or gods that people over the centuries have claimed to see in the skies during times of liminality. Walpurgisnacht, or Hexennacht being such a time, is one of the nights when the wild hunt is set to ride. So witches sometimes want to join them in trance or astral form. So as you're preparing yourself for this ritual and dabbing the flying ointment on, think specifically this time on the wild hunt and the ghostly or spiritual procession. And if you want, you can even chant something like, by storm and fire, wind and bone, I call the wild to flesh and stone. This time, when you're sitting or lying down and focusing in on the energy flowing through you, you're going to channel that raw electric magic running through you to tune in with the wild hunt. So, whether you choose to just light a fire or take flights, Walpurgisnacht or Hexennacht is your night, which is time to stir the cauldron, dance with the wild, and honor the spirits that walk between worlds. Let your witch fire burn bright, and remember, the veil is thin. It's time to embrace the witch within.